Hi and welcome to Shadow School. My name is Matt Sandbank. Today we are making a very fun and silly puppet, an ice skating rhinoceros. Now stick around to the very end of the video and I'll show you some things you can do with this rhino on the ice. Let's get started. Here are the materials you need for this shadow puppet. To make this ice skating rhinoceros, you will need a cereal box broken down so that you can use both the front and back. We'll go ahead and put this aside for now, and we'll use that in just a moment. Let's start with the head of the rhino. Make yourself a nice sized circle, and then about here and here, make yourself an oval. You can see we're making the snout of the rhinoceros. And then on top, let's add two ears that kind of rounded, meet at a point, like that. Make sure those actually meet up with your circle. Let's round off this top of the circle so it gradually goes into the snout. And then there's a kind of rise like that before we reach the real horn of the rhino. And then we kind of follow along the edge of that oval, give a little lip down there at the bottom, and then we'll kind of come back and join that right there. Okay, so that's the head of the rhino. Let's go ahead and cut that out because we're going to use that to make sure that our puppet is in good proportion and matches the rest of the puppet that we're making. So we'll go ahead and cut that out. Not so hard of a shape to cut out because it's mostly kind of roundish lines. You don't really have trouble unless you get into those real small nooks and crannies. These ears are a little bit tricky. To make them a little less tricky, I'll go up from the side of the ear and just cut straight off to the edge of the cardboard so I don't have to make a quick rounded turn like that. A little rounded edge. You'll notice that I'm steering with my left hand rather than move the scissor hand where I need to go. I try to keep my scissors more or less pointing forward, maybe with a little bit of variety, but mostly what I'm doing is steering the puppet with my left hand. Okay, so there's the head of our rhino. Let's save this cardboard for later if we need it. We might need that for our last piece. And let's go ahead and use our unused piece of cardboard here. So this is where the rhino's head will go. And then we're going to draw two arms and a leg. And so to do that, we're going to make kind of like a, kind of like a boomerang shape here with the arms. We're going to go like this and like that. And then for the leg, go back just a bit and then kind of parallel to that arm, mostly parallel, not quite, not exactly parallel. Okay, let's make these front hooves by kind of flaring out and rounding away. And then following that line more or less. Let's add a neck here so we have a good place to join the head later. We'll do the same thing here. Flare out, kind of round off and flare back. There we go. And then let's give this this rhino nice round belly like that. And then for the leg, we'll go straight back here and here. Go across. This is where the ice skating or the ice skate kind of starts. We'll kind of follow down like that. I like to turn this here so it's hard to draw a shoe upside down. So I'm just going to draw this shoe like that. And those toes should be a little bigger. There, that looks a little better to me. Okay, and then for the ice skate, I just add an ice skate like that. Okay, and we will use this. Let's cut this out first, then we'll use this to make our next leg so that those match up exactly. So put the head of the rhino aside. Let's make sure real quick that looks like it. Those proportions look right to me, I think. Yeah. Okay. And then we cut out. Notice that I stopped the boot before I got to this bend. You don't want to draw across the bend of one of these cardboard boxes because it makes your puppet floppy and it will kind of fall away from the shadow puppet screen, and that makes your shadow not show up very well for the audience. So you want a nice solid piece of cardboard without any flaps involved. That boot is the only really tricky part of this puppet. Everything else is just curved and or straight lines, so it doesn't take all that long to cut out. Oh, you see I made a mistake there. That's not a very smooth line, so let's just smooth that out. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and make the... Oh, whoops, I did not finish cutting this out. And let's use this leg as our model for the next one so that they are exactly symmetrical. I think that'll fit on this scrap of cardboard. Yes, it will. Okay, so we trace outside that line. And then, of course, we want to add just a little extra here so that we have a place for that puppet piece to attach to the body there. We're going to cut this out. I'm cutting out on the inside of these lines for the most part because whenever you trace a puppet, you end up with a very slightly larger piece of than what you started with because you're tracing on the outside. So to capture the original size of the puppet, I'm going to cut on the inside of this line. All right. There we go. Nice matching legs. So let's go ahead and get out our hole puncher. We'll start by punching a hole right in the middle of that rounded area. And that should go kind of right where this line is flaring off to that other leg. We'll put the dot right there. That's where we should put that one. And let's make sure this leg goes on top of the puppet. Push that paper fastener through, hold it in place, and fold these edges down. So we want this leg to be on top. We also want the head to be on top as well. So we'll put a hole punch right where that neck is going to join. And that should go right about there. Oh, let's change it. Either one of those holes should work, but let's keep it centered if we can. All right, head goes on top. Generally speaking, you want the pieces that are going to have straws attached to go on top. So the pieces that you're controlling go closest to you. That's on top here, and you can see this is going to want to get kind of caught on the arm. You can bend that arm back a little bit and that face up a little bit, and that should help the movement there. So we're almost ready to add straws. We're not quite there yet because I want to show you how to add a fun little costume piece. Now, I don't usually use anything other than cardboard for these puppets, but this puppet is a great opportunity to reuse a plastic bag. So take a white plastic bag. You want white because you want a little bit of light to pass through here. Take white and then get kind of flatten yourself out an edge and then just cut kind of a triangle like this. And my plastic bag was folded, so I'm gonna then cut down the middle like that. Okay, and then let's clean off the edge here, and then make kind of a wavy line. This is going to be the Rhino's skirt. They have those fancy kind of translucent costumes a lot of times in figure skating. So we're going to kind of line that up there, and then we're going to take some tape and just make sure that plastic bag is held on that real nicely. And I'll put maybe I'll take my tape and roll it into a circle like this, just to get that fixed right there on the back of it. And that's going to make a nice effect. You can see where you can see that a lot of the light passes through this skirt, this plastic bag, and that will create a neat effect when this is on the shadow puppet screen. And now we're going to take our 2 rods, our flexi straws, and bend them into L's. If the puppet is flat on your table, the straw is going to stick straight up in the air. The first straw is going to go right there on the head. You want the bend of the straw to go next to the joint of the puppet. And you just lay a couple pieces of tape across there. If you cut a piece of tape too long, you just fold it over the snout there. And the second straw is going to go on this free leg with the bend of the straw up here close to the joint of the puppet. And again, we're going to use just 2 pieces of tape to make sure that it's really on there. Fold that tape under if you make it too long, which you probably will since this leg isn't all that thick. Make sure you're not taping it to the plastic bag, otherwise it'll make your puppet hard to move. And we're ready for the shadow puppet screen. And that is how you make an ice skating rhinoceros. Now, one thing that makes this puppet so fun is the contrast between something as chunky and clunky as a rhino and something as graceful as an ice skater. Thank you so much for joining me today at Shadow School. My name is Matt Sandbank. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe if you enjoy making silly puppets like this rhino with me. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.